What matters to Gary and Jen matters to us. The Mellos never imagined they could love their bank until they came to Rockland Trust and met Mike Tavares. Mike helped the couple secure their first business loan, then expand from the Mello Group to Oracle Homes, turning their clients' dreams and their own into reality. For Gary and Jen, success is more about relationships than transactions. It's knowing Mike has always believed in their foundation and is here to help them build on it.
At Rockland Trust, you matter.
For over 20 years, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey has been helping hockey players of all ages develop their individual skills and improve on all aspects of their game. Through structured drills and innovative training equipment, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey's intense on-ice instruction challenges each student to be the best at their ability. Find a hockey clinic or summer camp that is right for you today at nateshockey.com. That's N-A-T-E-S hockey.com. Eric Nate's Euro Hockey, train to be the best.
And welcome into the New England Hockey Journal's RinkWise Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Marinofsky, joined as always by the great Patrick Donnelly. Pat, dare I ask, how are you?
I wish I felt great, but I'm hanging in there. Broke my collarbone skiing this weekend, but that's, champagne problems relative to what happened around New England yesterday.
Yeah, and this is where we'll start, obviously. Yeah, I think we were all shaken on Monday afternoon when we saw the reports and that there was a shooting at the Dennis Lynch Arena in Pawtucket. Horrible, just horrible. Obviously, we've learned a lot since then. Targeted family attack, but just shaken. The videos, the reports, the CCTV cam footage of players running into convenience stores nearby, the Walgreens. That was kind of one of the first reports. Just horrifying. And we obviously our hearts go out to the North Providence, the Rhode Island, Blackstone Valley schools, the Pawtucket, all of Rhode Island community, because this is something that clearly, will shake a lot of people, and it hits home with the hockey community.
Yeah. Like jarring, just, when you see that news come across yesterday, just scrolling Twitter, you never go to a game expecting anything like that will happen on senior day, no less. And, just hope for the best for the people that are still in the hospital, hope for the best for families affected. Just tough to find any words about a horrible situation.
Yeah, it is. And I want to give, there's a lot of heroes of this. I know there was a report that the coach, Chris Labrizzi, is a Warwick EMT. He jumped, right into the scene to help victims. The Coventry coach, Joseph Stringfellow, barricaded his team in their locker room and only opened the door when police came through. There's a lot of heroes. I saw even in the zoomed in video, there were some dads that jumped on the shooter. Some people, I don't know if they're dads, jumped on the shooter. But one person, it doesn't compare to that. But Brandon Mello, who was the first to report this, sports editor of the Woonsocket Call and Pawtucket Times, I'm going to assume was just there to report on the game itself. He's not expecting a shooting to break out. Did a great job putting out reports, getting information out in a calm way. That's a heavy thing. I mean, Pat, you and I say we're pretty good reporters. We don't expect shootings, obviously, and that's not our bread and butter. So Brandon Mello, I give a lot of props to, local journalist in Rhode Island. Fantastic job to him on that.
Yeah. Like you said, handled it really well. And, you and I are in the sandbox usually, and, don't usually, like I said earlier, never expecting anything like this to happen.
No, you don't. And then it, my heart goes out, our hearts go out to Rhode Island and that community as they, try to come back from this. Just a horrific situation down there. So Pat, your collarbone.
Huh.
How'd you break it?
Oh man. So I was skiing on Thursday at Black Mountain up in Jackson, New Hampshire. I love that place. One of my favorites. I hadn't been there in like a year / I think Ski Patrol and I were talking about the same trail. They may have like regraded it a little bit, so it was like kind of a steeper entry.
Their fault.
I wasn't going to some crazy trail either. Like I was very much going into like this easy part of the mountain, this kind of giant merge area up by one of the lifts. And I was going fast, but like not crazy fast. I wasn't really paying attention. Kind of forgot about this drop / didn't realize it was there, and just, you know, like you kind of get out, you know, get a little air when you don't mean to get air, and like I just remember kind of being like, oh shoot, and just head over heels, boom, right under my collarbone. I was just like in the spin cycle.
Need a little kid to break your fall there, Pat.
No little kid to break my fall. If I had to do anything over again, obviously first would be to not fall. Second would be to just like land on a little kid, hopefully just break that fall a little bit. But yeah, hey, go down to ski, like get myself up, like something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. I was like, hey, maybe it's just a stinger. Maybe it's just dislocated. I've never like done anything to my shoulder, so I have no idea what it is. Get myself down the mountain, go in, like first aid, like, hey, like, can you point me towards first aid? And I told you before, like, they were like, oh, you were who they mentioned on the radio. I was like, so at least it looked good. At least it was
pretty
spectacular.
Pretty sick.
Yeah. They sling me up, and I drive myself to Memorial Hospital in North Conway, get checked out, get x-rays. Broken collarbone is what they say. I haven't even seen the x-ray myself yet. Not that I would know what I'm looking at. Drive myself back to my place and just kind of sit there all weekend, watch some Olympics, follow up with the doctor today. Well, hopefully it's good news, and go from there.
Yeah, it's you called me right after, and it was not, that was definitely not a fun thing, but at least they talked about you in Ski Patrol. At least they were like, yeah, that's that guy. Yeah, that was a fall. That was a fall. So
you don't want to be that guy though. Like at the same time, like, yeah, hopefully it was like a spectacular spill, but you know, it kind of sucks being that guy too.
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that. But we wish you well. You'll be still Adam. You're doing your stories with your voice control or voice memo or whatever it is. So you're speaking into the mic.
So when you texted me at first, you're like, what I do might be voice to text. And I was like, no way, that's going to suck. And I like kind of realized like I will actually save myself a lot of time doing this rather than just like poking around on one hand. So I had to swallow the pride a little bit. So far, so good with the voice text, I think. Hopefully it saves me enough time going forward, covering games and stuff.
A little more editing, but it's okay. It's fun because it's like obvious, like this is lowercase or whatever. So it's very easy. But I'm always like, I'm not gonna like be like, oh my God, you know, because what are you gonna do? It is what it is. So fun times for sure. And then we hope you obviously get better and get good news on Tuesday. We have not talked boys, girls prep, boys MI, girls MI because of the podcast we did last week on mass adaptive hockey. So this is sort of 2 weeks of stuff, and it comes at a perfect time. February 17th, as we're sitting here recording, we're in the stretch. We're in the home stretch. MIAA brackets are going to come out this weekend. We'll get into those. We'll get into the lead up to those. We obviously don't have those brackets yet. And prep has like a week and a half left, and then March 1st, the brackets come out. So we'll start with boys prep. It's interesting right now, Pat, because teams are slipping and they're falling, and some of those teams are doing the same thing they did last year.
We talked about one of those teams last time. We were kind of wondering, Avon Old Farms, they're one of those teams that's slipping, maybe a little bit of a deja vu.
Yeah, so they did last year, and that's kind of what knocked them out of the Elite Eight field and into the large school. They've lost 4 in a row, but they're still 3rd in JSPR, and they're 5th in projected JSPR at the time of recording. So that is a very good thing for them, that they're still very much in the thick of the Elite Eight, because I believe, Pat, that Avon is a really good team. And I think that if they're in the Elite Eight, they're a team to watch out for. I've thought they've been a top 3 team all year. Obviously, they aren't right now, but I think as a whole with the roster, even with Ethan Gingelski out, they should be really good. They have a tough schedule, though. They have Choate. They got Salisbury on Saturday, which is going to be a big-ass game. You got Pomfret, Canterbury, who's in the Elite Eight hunt, and then they finish the year out with Loomis. So they are going to have to do well down the stretch. Clearly, the algorithm projects them to do really well. Salisbury is the only team that ranks above them, I believe. So maybe you can lose that one and still win the others and be in the Elite Eight. Again, kind of speaking out of my ass on that one, but I'm trying to assume what an algorithm can do. But they are slipping right now. But again, they have an opportunity with Choate on Wednesday, and then Salisbury's a big test. If you can win that, you're sitting real pretty. But yeah, Avon's in a tough spot right now, and it's unfortunately something they did last year. I don't want people to think I jinxed it when I mentioned this like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's an obvious storyline. So, but they'll pull themselves out of it. I'm confident, Pat. They're going to pull themselves out.
Yeah. Another team that's slipping, they're out of your top 10 this week, is Belmont Hill.
Yeah, Bell Hill, they're now 12th in the JSPR and projected JSPR. They are 13th. They've had a rough go of it of late. I mean, they beat BBN 8-0 on Valentine's Day, but the day before they lost 3-2 to Thayer. Wednesday, I was at this game. They lost 4-2 to Sebs. By the way, Pat, most packed I've ever seen that Henry T. Lane rink at Sebs. I had to park like way down the street on the curvature of a street. I was like, I'm going to come out. My car's either going to be gone or it's going to have just scrapes all over the side of it. Thankfully, it didn't happen. But phenomenal game, great atmosphere, but Belmont Hill lost and has lost their season series 2-0 to Sebs this year. And, you look at you look at Bell Hill the last couple weeks, 2 ties, Andover and Rivers, losses to Sebs and Thayer, probably out of it. Probably out of the Elite Eight. I don't want to say out of it, but like out of the Elite Eight. They have Milton, Nobles, Tabor, and Westminster coming up. Obviously, I guess if they get some luck, that would help them get in the Elite Eight field, but they may be out of it at this point. And again, I think they'll be a really good large school team if they end up, if they don't make the Elite Eight. But yeah, unfortunate for them. They were having a really good season. They've been, I think they were as high as 4 in my rankings. I had them 5th a week ago, but with the losses to Thayer and Bell Hill and some of the other teams rising, they've dropped out of my top 10, at least 4 right now.
Yeah, you never want to say never, but with that schedule and everything kind of around them, you kind of got to take care of your own business and probably get a lot of help elsewhere.
Yeah, and the ISL Keller, we've talked about this a lot, has been really good this year. So I think they've been sort of victims to that, where they've had some big wins, but they've had some big losses too. And I think a lot of these ISL Keller teams, that's why like a team like Tabor, avoiding those really big losses has been huge for them because they've just sort of stayed above, like way above water. And they're another team that's going to be interesting to watch over, the next week and a half. But yeah, Bell Hill right now on the outside looking in.
Well, those are 2 teams that are slipping. 2 teams one team that's rising is Cushing.
It's happening again, Pat. It's happening again. Last year, Cushing was out, looked out of it mid-season, looked out of it at the beginning of February, goes on a run, wins the Elite Eight. I think they were the 6th seed, I want to say, last year. Or, yeah, I think they were like the 6th seed or something. They were a lower seed, and they went on a crazy run. This team's won 7 of 8. And I give them a lot of credit. They lost Joe Covaluzzi earlier this month to Dubuque in the USHL. And you think, they're falling apart. They're already struggling. They just lost one of their top guys. They're going to really struggle. And they haven't. They've complete 180, complete opposite. Things are coming together. They almost beat St. Mark's this week. They lost with 7 seconds left in OT. Caden Pellegrino tipped a shot into the net. So, but again, they've won all of their other games. A huge week for Chase Warsofsky for them. And one question I'm getting from people is, can they make the Elite Eight? Because right now they are 9th in projected JSPR and season projected JSPR. They are 11th. So they're like right on the cusp. And I'll give you a fact both ways that kind of shows both sides, I guess. We're going to sit on the fence on this one. So Cushing has Andover, Kimball Union, New Hampton, and Govs to finish the season. So Kimball Union one obviously is huge. Govs is another one. Andover struggled, but they're pretty good. I'm curious if they won out those games, would they get in? Because obviously the algorithm does not have them beating Kimball Union. And that's probably most likely why they're projected to be out of the JSPR. So maybe if you win all 4, but I was going back, and since USHR, the playoff records are there, the playoff records stop in like 2014, no team has lost more than 9 games and made the Elite Eight. And Cushing right now has 10 losses as of today. And they have not played. This is Tuesday. They have 10 losses. So no team has been in the Elite Eight with more than 9 losses since 2014. And I'm not saying 2014 because that was the year a team with 10 losses got in. I'm saying 2014 because that's when the records go up to on USHR. So I think that's an important piece of context too. I don't want to say I don't expect Cushing to be in the Elite Eight because prove me wrong. But whether they make it or not, it's a hell of a finish to the season, man. And they're going to be a good team in that large school field.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't want to buck history completely, but like with a remaining schedule like that, it's a huge opportunity to kind of buck that trend. And maybe if you win out, maybe you still need a little bit of help, but to kind of be right there with, kind of some pivotal matchups in front of you. We say this a lot with the JSPR. Don't never say never.
I agree. And so I'm looking at the projected JSPR finals, the projected final seedings. They have Cushing losing one more game. So that would be Kimball Union. So if they beat Kimball Union, does that mean that they're in? Like, and if they win every other game, does that mean that
they win every other one too?
And they're the 3rd seed in the large school tournament if they lose to Kimball Union and win the rest of their games. So does that get you to the 8th seed in the Elite Eight? I don't know, but it's certainly something. I mean, that large school field, projected wise, Bell Hill at 1, Thayer 2, Cushing 3, Brunswick 4. Those are all teams I thought would be in the Elite Eight, or have been in the Elite Eight race all year. St. Paul's, sneaky, really good team at 5. Deerfield 6, Andover 7. Then shout out to Austin Prep at 8. So yeah, Cushing's a really interesting story down the back half. But props to Dan Fontes and that whole crew because they've been, they've turned it around and they've had a really good month of February.
One more team on the rise, and we just talked about them as a pretty significant roadblock to Cushing's Elite Eight bid. Kimball Union, they're on the rebound.
Kimball Union's back. Yeah, I mean, they lost to Holderness like a week or two ago. So you thought, all right, maybe they're going to be a low Elite Eight seed, high small school seed. Not the case. They beat Holderness. Again, they beat Holderness this past week. So they split, which also, by the way, I moved Holderness down 1 spot this week. I still think Holderness should be an Elite Eight team. They've been really, really good this year. So again, like Holderness and Kimball Union splitting makes sense. They're both really good teams, but Kimball Union beat Andover like 11-3, and they've been just hot of late. So I moved them up to 4, given that a lot of the teams in the middle of my top 10 did not have great weeks last week. Xander Batillier is back. He's almost producing at a 2 points per game clip. He had a 5-point game last week. Josh Phillips has been an awesome number 1 center for them. He's got 55 points, still uncommitted. I don't know how that's the case. Same with Batillier, to be honest. I know he missed a lot of this year. That game on Cushing, that game versus Cushing, it'll be up in Kimball Union on Saturday, will be huge. So that's a huge one for Kimball Union. You want to win that. Obviously, the algorithm thinks that it will. And then you have the Lakes Region tournament, which is always fun. So you may get a 3rd meeting of Kimball Union and Holderness. But the Lakes Region, we don't talk about this enough. Lakes Region has been really good this year. People always go, oh, Lakes Region, it's Kimball Union and Holderness. That hasn't been the case this year. Tilton's been competitive. New Hampton's had a really good year, and St. Paul's had a fantastic year. St. Paul's, what Scott Harf and them are doing up there to get that team back on the path has been awesome. So, Connor Gorman at New Hampton, Brooks McQuaid at Tilton, Scott Harf at St. Paul's, they've been really formidable opponents. And I know New Hampton swept Holderness this year. So, like, Lakes is good. So maybe the final isn't automatically Holderness and Kimball Union. But it could be. So that'll be interesting to watch. Kimball Union, though, definitely back on track.
One thing I'm interested about, and we talked about this last year, I don't remember where we settled on it, but when we look at the JSPR and the projections in these Lakes Region teams, I'm not positive that the Lakes Region tournament is factored into the projections.
Oh, I forget. Is it?
I'm trying to mentally do the math now of like Holderness is projected 18-6-1. I think that only gives them, of their 4 regularly scheduled remaining games. Yeah, they have 4 teams left scheduled, then it's 2 TBAs.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you're 100% right.
That could also, you talk about, the ripple effect, that might also impact Cushing too.
Someone can correct us on this. I vaguely remember. Yeah, please do. I vaguely remember, and I could be misremembering. A lot of things happen. Could be remembering that like those games have impacted, like they get added into the schedule when they happen. So then they automatically factor into the JSPR.
Yes, but I'm talking about in the projections.
Oh, yes. Yeah. No, you're 100% right. So that's interesting too. The Lakes region, when those games get added in, what does that do to the JSPR?
Yeah, so like kind of gonna have that in the back of our heads when we're talking about the projections in the Lakes
I
region.
forgot about that. Good
Because
catch.
I'm thinking that now because St. Paul's is 8th in the girls' JSPR, and projected 8th. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Good catch on that. You're listening. That's that's why I did it. I wanted to test if you were listening. I wanted to make sure that you were paying attention. There you go.
There we go. One more thing on boys. We're recording this on Tuesday. You'll probably have this on the site later today, I think. But you did a fun little article on 4 nations in boys prep last year. It wasn't really four nations. It was more like 4 districts in boys prep.
Or regions.
Yeah, we're gonna do that with the Olympics, and it should be a pretty fun one for people to read.
Yeah, so boys will run Tuesday, girls will run later in the week. So we'll have that even. Last year, I was on the way home from the championship from the USA Canada thing. I thought of it and I did it the next day. So I was like, I wanted to get it out quick. This year, it's more time with it. Girls one will be out as well, which will be great. But yeah, no, it was really fun doing it. It's for those who haven't read the story yet. There's a team Massachusetts. There's a team New England, which is all the states in New England minus Mass. There's a team New York and New Jersey, and there's team Canada. There isn't enough to do team like rest of the country. It just doesn't work. Like all those 4 regions, you have passion for, right? Mass kids care about Mass. New England district, those kids have always repped the New England district. New York and New Jersey want to prove supremacy. Canada, obviously. So like, I didn't want to do one that was just kids from the rest of the country, because then it's just generic. And maybe we'll change that in the future because there are a lot of really good kids. I think of like Jack Odell or Josh Phillips that don't get to be on a team. So I feel bad about that. But I encourage people to go check out the article and check out the girls one as well. I think Team Mass obviously has a really strong team. Last year, Team New England was damn good. I think Team New York / New Jersey may have surpassed them. So, I think it'd be a really competitive field. I do love the idea. I remember, Pat, last year, people reaching out being like, I'll give you ice, or like, you guys should absolutely do this. And it would be really fun. Have the coaches be like, if you're the top of the Elite 8 and you're from that area, you're one of the coaches on that team. So yeah, it's a fun project. People always are like, you should actually do it. Maybe one year we do. I think it'd be a cool little all-star game. I was thinking though, Pat, like last year I said, it happened like in our fantasy land, it would happen like the week after the season ends. Part of me thinks that championships should end a season, and maybe this happens in like right after Christmas if we were to do it. Like,
well, I mean, if you look at regular just Massachusetts high school sports, there's always like the Eastern Mass All-Star game and like the Agganis All-Star game.
I know it's after though, and it's like just the spring sports have already started. It kind of gets left in the dust. I would love for this. I was thinking I would love for this to be like right after Christmas, or like break up the dog days, break up late January, a week in late January, have these games happen. Give everybody a break if you make these teams. It's an awesome chance to be scouted. It's one central location. But again, it's Fantasyland. This doesn't exist. So if people want to help make it happen, they can. But it's Fantasyland for now.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can go check that out. I'm not going to run through every single line. Sorry. You got to read the story for that. Anyway, girls prep. New number 1, Pat. We're in a week and a half left, and there's a new number 1.
I know. For the first time since the new year, or, our first ranking since the new year, we have a new number 1 team. Phillips Andover takes over. They beat Williston 3-1 this past weekend. To talk about the big guns, Sarah Powers, 3 points with a goal. Maggie Averill and Sienna Glass also scored. Marie Lee had 21 saves. That's big. I've talked about kind of all of this the last month, where you can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Williston, Phillips, Andover, Nobles, and Loomis Chaffee all having a case for number 1. When you get a head-to-head like this, you kind of want to see the fireworks. You don't want it all to go chalk, just for pure entertainment value. And you kind of got that, and so the ripple effect of that in our rankings and the JSPR, you know, our rankings, Phillips Andover is 1, Nobles moves up to 2, Williston down to 3. In the JSPR, Nobles is 1, Andover is 2, and Williston is 3. Loomis stayed put at 4 in both. So just a lot of kind of just jostling back and forth here down the stretch, and I imagine there's going to be more. You know, there's some huge matchups that we'll get to later this week. You know, Loomis and Williston have a head-to-head. Nobles and Andover have a head-to-head. Tabor and Nobles have a head-to-head. You look ahead to next week, and Loomis will play Andover too. Like, there's still a lot that can change at the top of the Elite Eight in this last week and a half.
Yeah, no, there absolutely is. But that's a huge, because you were saying that some of the matchups coming up are bananas.
Yeah.
In the last week of the last week and a half of the season. And Nobles is a team though that's up at the near the top, and they've just been rolling of late.
Yeah, I mean, Nobles, you look at a week ago, they beat, you know, St. George's, which it will be that I believe they're in the large school this year. They're kind of in the mix for a playoff spot. Cushing is kind of, we'll talk about Cushing in a second. Cushing is really interesting. So Nobles gets a good win there. You know, they smoke Brooks, and then you look at this past weekend where 3 quality wins. You know, Hill School has a lot of talent. You know, you beat Groton, which has been an Elite Eight hunt. BB&N is a playoff team. So it's just kind of all firing on all cylinders right now for Nobles. Francie Ames really in the last kind of month has just absolutely taken off, and she's been on fire all season. She has a point in all 23 games this season. Pretty good.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
That's insane.
She had like 8 points in the 3 games last week. You know, I think she's leading the scoring race right now with 48 points. And then you look at like everyone else, like Ava DeCourcy, who is someone we kind of highlighted coming into the year, is like, this is, you know, when she takes off for this team. She kind of has since the new year. Rachel Zhao is still doing her thing on the top line. So it's just kind of everything kind of coming up Nobles right now. But again, like some huge matchups this week, whether it's Andover, whether it's Tabor, and you look ahead, you know, there's still a lot at stake.
There is. And you know, we talk a lot about the Elite Eight, but the small school, we'll get back to the Elite Eight in a second, but small school team New Hampton they're into the small school picture.
Yeah, you know, going for, I think this would be a bid at a 4-peat.
Yeah, that's
you know,
right.
And it's a completely different team than those last 3 teams. But they weren't in the picture as of a week ago. You know, they had lost 4 straight, 5 of 7, and even like you can just do X of X if depending how far you go back into the new year. Like a lot of ups and downs for a pretty young and inexperienced New Hampton team this year. You know, right now they're 10-13-0. I think JSPR has them projected to finish 13-14-0. That's excluding the Lakes Region playoffs. But projected 7th seed in the small school tournament, and to not even be in the playoff picture about a week ago, and, you know, pull off an upset over a team like Exeter, and kind of just put yourself right into the mix for a playoff spot, you know, says a lot about kind of how that team's come along this season. You look at just even, you know, their experienced players like Emma McPherson has had an insane year. She had a goal and assist in that upset over Exeter. Addie Peel doing her thing on the blue line also had a goal and assist in that win. So it's, hey, you talk about playing your right hockey, the right hockey at the right time, and it seems like that could have been a turning point there for New Hampton.
Yeah, no, it sure seems like it. One question is, Groton still in the hunt? You know, they seem like a team that's right around it, but can they finish this off in the next week and a half?
I don't know if the math is kind of working for them here. You know, they're 10th in the JSPR, so just like eye test alone would tell you, yes, they're still in the mix. But when you look at their last week, it's losses to Nobles and Dexter, which, you know, 2 teams ahead of them. But those are, if you flip an upset there, that's massive. But, you know, obviously things don't go your way. And then you just kind of look at the remaining schedule of Brooks, St. George's, Thayer, St. Mark's, and, you know, Brooks kind of not in the playoff hunt. St. George's, you know, we'll see. Thayer and St. Mark's are also just in the playoff hunt for small and large school. So you win out there, like how much does that do for you as far as you know, the math goes? I'm not sure how a whole lot that would happen there. So you probably need a lot of help elsewhere, whether that's a Tabor beating and you know, a Nobles taking care of Tabor. You know, Tabor's a team that's kind of right in front of Groton as far as the JSPR goes. kind of, you're trying to do the mental math of, looking ahead to the schedule and, what help might need to happen.
Yeah, and I think when you look at I'm looking at the JSPR right now, it's a huge week. Number 8 seed St. Paul's and number 9 in the JSPR right now, Phillips Exeter. They don't just play each other once this week; they play each other twice. So huge week for these two teams.
Yeah. So if St. Paul's can beat Exeter twice, and Groton can win out, and Exeter or St. Paul's can, Exeter's not in the Lakes region, so that doesn't matter. So yeah, if St. Paul's can beat Exeter twice this week, and Groton can, do their thing and get other help, again, never say never. We sound like a broken record, but it just seems like a lot has to go their way.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Are St. Paul's and Exeter, is that it's a home and home, right?
Yes. With a game in between, they'll play. I think it's at St. Paul's on Wednesday and at Exeter on Saturday, or flip those if I have those reversed, and they each have a game in between on Friday.
That's funny.
Huge
yeah,
week.
I'm looking at the schedule right now. Yeah, Wednesdays at St. Paul's, and then Saturday is at Exeter. So there you go. That's going to be those two big matchups coming up this week. You mentioned Cushing earlier. Don't sleep on them. Don't sleep on them. Kind of back in it, just like the boys.
Yeah. We kind of just hadn't really talked about Cushing lately. All of a sudden they're 11th in the JSPR, 11-7-3. So it's not like the record jumps off the page, but they're back in our top 10 this week. Kind of just, combination of the past week they had, and, the weeks that Exeter and Rivers had. You go 2-0-1, you take care of Lawrence and Berkshire, two teams you should beat. You tie BB&N. A win over BB&N probably would have, gone a long way for Cushing, but, tie's better than a loss still. Yeah, we talked about it kind of the same way we talked about Cushing on the boys' side, which is the opportunity ahead of you this week. You're 11th in the JSPR, but you're about to play Deerfield, which is in the Elite Eight as we speak right now. Then you have Rivers, which has been, probably, again, the math is not in their favor, but a team that is in that top 16 of the JSPR, that would be a quality win. And then you have Dexter, which is kind of entrenched in that number 5 spot right now. If you can beat especially a Deerfield or a Dexter and pick up 2 out of 3 wins in those games, or, run the table, or just, get a win over Dexter with some help or what have you, could be a big week for Cushing. So again, it's that mental math, trying to map out what needs to happen. And, certainly the computers know better than we would. But if you get through this week, you have Milton, you have Tilton, and you have Choate. So if you can run the table or kind of get through with one loss, I'd have to double check what the playoff projection is right now as far as their record.
For Cushing?
Yeah, Cushing's projected 13, to finish 13, 10, and 4.
Yep.
So it has you losing 3 of those games. Might have you losing all 3 this week. But again, if you can buck 1 or 2 of those and get some help, it just could be a photo finish for that 8th spot.
It could be. I'm looking at, so Nobles and Andover, as you said, we're playing this week. The projected season, the season projections have them tying that game. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Interesting.
So, because I was looking at the records, so Nobles is 22-1-0 right now, and Andover is 19-1-1, and they're both projected final record. Nobles has a tie, which they don't have right now, and Andover has a second tie, which they don't have right now, and I'm assuming that comes from their game. So the algorithm projects that they will tie. That's bananas.
And again, this is why we play the games in real life. I don't think there will be a tie in that game.
No, and there shouldn't be, by the way. I mean,
no.
Maybe it will, like, go in the books as one, but
so you look at it, you play this thing out, that's probably the game for the number 1 seed.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Unless Loomis beats Williston, Andover beats Nobles, all of a sudden they're 1 and 2, and then they go head to head next Wednesday. So again, there's as much as we've talked about those 4 teams are set in stone, and I think they're pretty set in stone as far as being in the top 4. What those top 4 seeds end up shaking out into is far from set in stone.
Correct. Completely.
And I mean, we've talked about Dexter and them kind of being glued to number 5. Is there a chance for Dexter to jump into the top in the top 4 here. Last week you beat Exeter and Groton. Those were 2 ranked teams. Those were 2
They're
teams inside
projected
the top
to.
10.
Dexter's projected at 4.
Yeah. So, and then you sweep Lawrenceville this weekend. You look at their remaining schedule, and it's New Hampton, it's Cushing, it's Rivers. So those 3 right there are playoff teams. And Lawrence Academy, which playing in the ISL, that that strength of schedule reflects favorably for if it's a win for Dexter.
Pretty wild.
So, yeah. I mean, so I watched so much Olympics this weekend. It was crazy. And like every single race was like they were doing the photo finish. And that's just like the image I got in my head right now, thinking of these standings.
It'll be interesting. I'm looking at the girls now, and wow. I mean, it like even for that 8th spot, but then even up top, I would think you're right. Whoever wins that Nobles Andover game probably is that number 1 seed. And Williston's kind of out of the number 1 seed now because they just lost to Andover. So yeah, that's the girls' side. Crazy. We'll be back next week with more stuff on that. Now we make our move over to the MIAA. Start with boys.
Really quick, is Loomis out of it? Or Williston, I should say. They got Loomis, Deerfield, and BB&N. If you run the table there and then things go your way elsewhere, like around the the other big matchups, doesn't seem impossible.
Yeah, maybe not, but I would say like they're projected to win the rest of their games. And Andover and Nobles, I guess if Nobles or Andover dropped a random game, then
like if Nobles also lost to Tabor or Loomis beat Andover. So maybe improbable, but not impossible. And again, this is all of us trying to make sense of projections and math equations.
Which we are famously not good at.
No, not at all.
Let's keep it there.
So boys MIAA, Canton, huge statement. They win the Ed Burns over Tewksbury. And they're up to number 4 in the MIAA.
Yeah. So we have not done a podcast since the Ed Burns ended, I don't think.
No.
On Super Bowl Sunday, no less, Canton takes on Tewksbury, battle of the D2s, and Canton comes out with a 5-0 win, which is staggering. Tewksbury's a really good team. Tewksbury's a top 10 team across all divisions of MIAA. And I don't know, I feel like we all thought Tewksbury was a little bit better than Canton. Not the case. Not the case at all. And Canton's now moved up in my top 10 to number 4. Canton is the best public school in the state this year, at least as of right now. And so they've been terrific at that top line of Andrew Gillis, Ryan Elric, Joey Ryan. They've been powering them all season. So it's a big win for them. Pat, we talk a lot about the Super 8 and what it would look like. The power rankings have not been updated since last Friday, and we're doing this Tuesday, so I don't want to say like definitively, but pretty definitively, Canton would be in the Super 8 if there was one, which is staggering to think about. So they've had an incredible year. They're the favorite in Division 2. I think everybody probably has Canton Tewksbury circled as like the championship in Division 2 because those two teams are kind of above everybody else. Anything can happen in the tournament, as we know, but Canton, man, that's a big statement. That's a big time win. Got to give them a lot of credit because they beat a lot of good teams to get there too.
Like we talked about, it's just playing your right hockey at the right time. And
yeah, and they like in the Ed Burns, they started with that win at 7 a.m. against Reading, which we'll get to Reading in a second. They are on fire. They beat Hingham 5-0, and then they beat Tewksbury 5-0. That's a crazy run. So a lot of props to Canton, man. They're coming on strong at the right time.
So let's get to Reading before we get into one of our usual suspects. Reading. They're on a roll.
Reading's on a roll. Since losing to Canton 2-1 and tying Burlington 2-2, they have beat Belmont, Milton, Arlington, Chelmsford, Winchester, Archies, and Hingham. That is a gauntlet. And the craziest stat is they've given up 3 goals in those 7 games. So they've mostly been shutouts. I think it was they gave up 1 to Hingham, and I think they gave up 2 to Milton. I could be wrong about that, but it was like a 2 in one game and 1 in the other. So they have mainly just been racking up shutouts. Again, Reading, we always joke about this. Like those Reading, how Reading's going to play. Reading is really stingy. They are dump and chase. They're going to beat you in low scoring games, and they're going to grind you down. And what does that sound like? That sounds like a team that's going to be really good in the tournament. And it's no surprise that they've sort of found their game here at the end. I watched them against Canton. I think I also watched them against Arlington. I could be mixing up my games, but they were not an inspiring product. It was like, they're fine. They're good. They have some good players, Jack Melly, Nate Varese. Like, they have some really high-end, really good players. But they put it together over these last couple of weeks. And when Mark Doherty has that team playing that way, that's going to be a hard team to play in the playoffs. We'll probably get to this next week and we're going to have stories on like sleeper teams to watch in the tournament. They aren't a sleeper anymore. They last time in the MIAA power rankings, I want to say they were 4th for Division 1, which is incredible when you think about Arlington and Hingham. Yeah, as of February 13th, Reading is 4th or was 4th in the Division 1 power rankings, the highest seeded public school in Division 1. Arlington and Hingham right behind them, but Reading has moved up into that tier. Initially, I had Reading as sort of like a bottom top 10 team. Now they're up near the top. So again, a lot of credit to them. They've been great these last couple of weeks, and similar to Canton. And Canton's been dominant all year, but Reading's getting hot at the right time. The other thing too, Pat, Reading's record is insane. I think they're like 16-2-2. The reason I don't think that gets weighted as heavily early on is because they don't play as many like top teams early in the season as some of the the Hinghams or the Arlingtons do, or obviously your Catholic Conference teams. But they have these last couple weeks and they've won them. So good sign for the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about one of our usual suspects. We'll get to them now. Catholic Memorial, speaking of big wins, they beat Pope on Saturday.
Yes. One thing I also want to mention, we're recording this in the middle of the Buddy Ferreira Classic. I think Reading and BC High are the championship on Wednesday. Obviously, don't know the results of that yet. But one other thing for BC High, that'd be huge if they could win that. That'd be a really good momentum builder going into the tournament. So, the Reading BC High, that'll be a good game. CM Pope Francis was on Saturday. CM won 3-1. I don't hold this against Pope Francis. They've been really hot of late. CM, to me, I've said this every episode we've done, I think CM is clearly the number 1 team entering the tournament. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but it means they're the favorites. AJ Angstitis, Jack McCourt, Mike Melvin, they had the goals against Pope Francis on Saturday. So CM's going in hot. They rarely stumbled. SJP, as of now, is would be the 2 seed. But I don't think there's any doubt about CM being that number 1 seed, which we always highlight our misses in terms of our predictions and our guesses. I gotta give myself credit. I've had CM all year at number 1. I had CM at number 1 when other people didn't. So I gotta give myself, sometimes you gotta pat yourself on the back. Sometimes you gotta kiss your own ass. So
it's okay. You're just picking the chalk.
Nah, well, a little bit. Things could change. But yeah, CM's been the number 1 team all season long. Let's switch over to the girls MIAA side. Algonquin, big win over NDA.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you want to, do the pat yourself on the back and ranking Algonquin when maybe they weren't ranked,
hell yeah. You can't pat yourself on the back right now, so
I can. It's just I gotta do it kind of lightly. Yeah, they're the only perfect team left in the state. Methuen-Tewksbury is still undefeated. But Algonquin-Hudson, or Algonquin, I think there's more than the co-op than just Hudson, so just Algonquin for the purposes of this exercise. 20-0-0. They beat NDA 2-1. They have another kind of big test against Bishop Feehan to close out the regular season. That's kind of a big test for both teams. Kind of another kind of prove it type of game for Algonquin. It's a kind of big time prove it game for Bishop Feehan. We've talked about them plenty. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about Maddie Glynn all season long. She was kind of held in check, at least on the score sheet, against NDA. And you had freshmen stepping up, whether it's Emily Kazmierczak with the late game winner, Savannah Solomino tied it in the second period. And there was, no issue for Maddie Glynn. She has 4 goals the next game against Hopkinton. So, props to her. But yeah, just we've had that NDA game and this kind of final 2 weeks circled on the calendar for Algonquin kind of all season, ever since we started taking note of them around the new year, kind of middle of January, and passing every test so far. One more test left, see if they pass it. And there's even for outside of Algonquin, there's still a lot at stake here over the final few days of the regular season.
No question. Elsewhere in the MIAA, big South Shore matchup. Hingham takes down Duxbury.
Yeah, Hingham's rolling too. They've won 7 straight. Hannah Lash is red hot. She scored against Duxbury. She was big again in a win over Andover. She had 4 points, had a pair against Marshfield, scored against Pembroke, just cooking right now. And so is Hingham. They have, again, 2 kind of large matchups this week. You have Archie's on Tuesday, which is when we're recording this. And then you have Westwood, which is, for all signs point to them taking the number 1 seed in D2. So kind of a huge test for both teams in that matchup, a big test for Archie's, and Hingham will still have its hands full here in the final 2 games.
Yeah, and then another team that's rolling right now, King Philip. KP has been rolling for quite a while, and they get a huge win this past week.
Yeah, we talked about them maybe 2 podcasts ago, just this absolute heater they were on, the opening the season undefeated, Annabelle Curran, all she's been doing. And I think once we gave them their props, they go like 0-2-1.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah,
it?
but they've ripped back with, I think 7 in a row. I was at their win over Duxbury. I was so impressed by their top line with, Annabelle Curran, Stephanie LeBlanc, among, the trio there. Kiki Lynch in net, just makes so many saves. And especially, Duxbury controlled a lot of that pace in that game. And she's just poised throughout. And even their D-zone execution where, none of their defenders really maybe, jump off the page initially, but they just they're steady. They get the job done. They weren't like ever running around or in panic mode in that Duxbury game. Like they spent the entire third period in their defensive zone and just steady as she goes, just making the simple plays, clearing pucks when you need to. So I was so impressed by KP in that game. They've kind of kept it going here with, a 7-game win streak as we record this.
They absolutely have. And then you get into St. Mary's. That's a team that's we've talked about throughout the year. It's been a little up and down, but it seems like they're back on track.
Yeah, they went 1-2-1 a couple weeks ago, kind of a up and down stretch, but they've won 4 straight. They beat Archie's on Monday. They beat Bishop Stang on Saturday. Alyssa Norton's kind of coming alive at the right time for them. She's going to be, as we talk about Emma Doucette a lot, but you look at players who are kind of holdovers from that championship team 2 years ago. Alyssa Norton, Kira Toomey, those types of players are going to be, when you're kind of anticipating getting back into a deep playoff run here, if you're St. Mary's, it's good to see players like them kind of getting it done down the stretch.
No question. And I think the other thing is like, this goes for the boys too. There's a lot at stake over these, even just these next couple of days. The bracket comes out this weekend, but it's crazy what can happen over this next week.
Yeah, I mean, you look at even some of the teams we haven't talked about at the top, where you have like the MC showcase this week. There's a lot of different showcases and stuff during February break. MC obviously in the mix. Natick, Reading is a team that's kind of flown into the radar. Kind of blanking on who the 4th team in that field is. Or St. Mary's, duh. But St. Mary's right now is projected number 2 in the power rankings. These came out at 4 a.m. on Tuesday when we record this. NDA, St. Mary's, Algonquin, Methuen, and Hingham are your top 5 in D1. Bishop Fien kind of hanging around there. And in D2, you got Westwood, Duxbury, Milton, Pembroke, and King Philip. We talked about some of the head-to-heads already. Then you get the MC showcase, and still plenty that can change.
Still plenty can change. You're lucky. Your power rankings came out right before recording. Mine are not out yet, so I'm going off stuff from last week. Like what the hell?
Very quickly, if we want to talk about the Super 8, only one D2 team would be in the if the Super 8 started today. We have a show to do today. If there was a Super 8 starting right now, Westwood would be the 8th seed.
Damn.
And the rest would be D1. It would be NDA, St. Mary's, Algonquin, Methuen, Hingham, Bishop Fien, Archie's, and then Westwood.
So Duxbury would be in the regular division too.
Yes. Actually, Westwood would be 7, Archie's would be 8th. So splitting hairs there, but yeah, 7 D1 teams, 1 D2.
I'm looking at I want to confirm this. I believe based off last Friday's power rankings, actually Canton would not be in it. So I take back what I said about Super 8. It would be all Division 1. Canton is just outside of it, according to last Friday's power rankings.
Well,
somehow maybe that changed, but yeah, no. So yeah, I take back what I said.
When that changes and Evan is talking about old power rankings, please email evan.marinofsky.
No, don't, no. There's no reason to do that. Now you can email me if you'd like. My email's patrick.donnelly@siemensmedia.com. I picked it at the perfect time when Pat was drinking water, so he couldn't get in the way of it like I got in the way of him. One other thing I do want to mention MIAA wise, I'd be remiss if I didn't. And I'm not, this isn't a joke. Framingham took down Burlington. First game of the Ed Cahoon Cup, 6-4. Colin Walsh had 4 goals. He's a dude. He has been a just sicko mode this year. Honestly, like I still obviously follow Framingham on Instagram, and I'll look at they'll put the goals and stuff in the comments, and it'll like every time it's like Walsh 3 like sirens or like 4 sirens. Like he's just scoring all the time. So honestly, Framingham was 14 last Friday. Burlington's the number 4 team in Division 2. They should move them up. They continue to roll. Like I think when we do sleepers, they're certainly one of them. And it's not just because I played there. They genuinely are. So good for them. And there are a lot of teams in D1 that are in that, like in the teens that are going to be dangerous for those top 10 teams. No question about it.
Do you think 10 years ago, someone was sitting here on this podcast saying, Evan Marinofsky, if you see that one huddle highlight of his, he is a dude.
I can guarantee no one ever said that one time.
Keep your head up when Marinofsky's on the ice.
Yeah, he'll turn the puck right over to your stick. That's what he'll do.
Do you want to skate fast? For 50 years, Laura Stam instructors have taught youth players to pros how to skate correctly, powerfully, and fast. Players who attend Laura Stam power skating programs learn how to skate fast by learning how to execute every maneuver in hockey. They become powerful, stable, efficient, and explosively fast skaters. If you can't wait for a clinic, join our subscription skills video service, and we'll show you the skills taught at our clinics in an easy-to-use video format with training plans to guide your training. Register or subscribe now at laurastam.com. That's LAURASTAMM.com. You can learn to skate fast.
We got to do overtime with our great producer, David Yaz. It's been a hot minute, but we're back doing this. So we're back with our great producer, David Yaz.
Overtime.
Yes, welcome back to Overtime. It's a special Olympic edition of Overtime where I have 3 random questions for both of our panelists. Are you guys prepared? Are you ready? Doesn't matter.
No, and
Glad to get back to the fundamentals.
Okay. Evan, we'll start with you. Is hockey the best Olympic sport from a fan perspective, or from whatever perspective you like? Is it the best Olympic sport? And if not, what is the best? And if it is the best, what's second? And I will allow you to go into Summer Olympics too, if you care to.
So I love best on best hockey. I think it's great. It's awesome. But you watch it all year. And like you watch hockey all year. It's mainstream. It's one of the 4 major sports in the United States. And it's great. Like I do love it. And when we see US Canada, that's probably the highlight of the Olympics, no question. But I don't mind the other things. I don't mind sitting there and having like the luge on or curling, which actually seems like this is not true. But like I watch curling, I'm like, I could do that. I could do that. It seems like a yard game, but it's fun to watch. And like, that's the essence of the Olympics. Like the Olympics is like those kinds of things. So I don't have a specific one, but I'm not one of those people that's like, hockey is clearly the best sport here. We get hockey all year. It's cool to see the other stuff too. The people that are like, that have full-time jobs and do this on the side, like that's kind of the fun of the Olympics to me.
Well, it's also before your time, gentlemen, of course, sometime in the late 80s, I think they started allowing pros to play in the Olympics. Before that, there was so much more mystique because not only did you have amateurs from the U.S. playing and then so-called amateurs from places like Russia, but these players, for the most part, were strangers to us. You know, they just looked, it was like something out of, seeing the evil Russians in a 1980s, action film. You know, they obviously didn't speak our language. They never smiled, and we had to play them every 4 years. And now all the Russians are in the NHL. The best Russians are in the NHL. Anyways, I'm babbling. Pat, your thoughts?
I would kind of agree with Evan. where, man, I said this to my friends the other day, and someone asked me to explain it. I didn't, because I don't know how to explain it. But when I'm going from like the skeleton event, or something, or like the crazy like the snowboard half pipe, or the biathlon to hockey, it almost feels like I'm going back to the kiddie pool. Like where like trust me, and the best on best is it's awesome. This is what it should be in the Olympics. But when you get like skeleton or like some of those sports where like people are like literally putting their lives on the line, like watching the skeleton, they're like, oh, you hear that scraping noise in the corner? That's their chin and their helmet scraping the ice. It's supposed to do that, folks. Don't worry. It's like, man, like, hey, like it's I love the Winter Olympics. Like, I think way more than the summer. Like summer's cool. Like I love watching like swimming and stuff, especially when you had Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte doing their thing. But like the winter where it's like people are putting their lives on the line, and it's these sports that like just every single time someone does something, you say to yourself, wow. And also, how the hell do you get into that?
Yeah.
I think that's what makes the other sports a little better. Like I was watching the half pipe like with the snowboarders, and like you can do the most basic trick ever and call it like a triple axel 720 insert X number here. And it's like the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, what kid decides one day when he's 8 years old, I think I want to do short track speed skating,
Yeah. Or like, oh, I want to do how do you figure out like you're good at the luge? Where do I go around here to do luge? But the other thing, and this sits on Pat's point about going to the kiddie pool. So like we mentioned best on best. US versus Latvia, that's really best on best. Like
when Finland beats Italy 11-0.
Yeah, like it's boring as hell. I'm sorry. Like, and it's cool to see the US, Jack Hughes to Quinn Hughes to Brock Nelson. Like, that's great. And it's fun and it's dominant. It's like, yeah, I love my country. But it's, when US plays Canada or Sweden, like, yeah, that'll be a phenomenal game. That's going to be must-watch TV. But most of the games for hockey are not best on best. They aren't. So, yeah, I'm with you, Pat. I think that it's fun. I like watching the other events too. I watch the hockey, obviously, but I like watching the other events too.
Yeah. Well, it's also they're so bizarre and different than, you guys live hockey. You see it all the time, and you don't get to see these bizarro sports. Yeah. I think I'm going to die happy knowing I've never tried the skeleton. I don't think I need to do that. Maybe you guys still got some good years in you. Maybe you'll take it up at some point. Be an Olympic hero. All right, Pat, you'll be first with this question. In your ultimate hockey fantasy, forced to choose, would you rather win an Olympic gold medal or a Stanley Cup?
Well, see, that's the thing about the hockey conversation at the Olympics. I'd probably choose the Stanley Cup just because we grew up so conditioned with the NHL and your fandom. Now, if I was from Switzerland and I didn't watch the NHL every night, I'd probably choose an Olympic gold. And there's probably a lot more national pride there, as you kind of see with when Latvia, I think, won bronze at the World Cup, and it was just like the country shut down for the celebration. So,
because it's good for them.
Yeah, it's kind of like the North American and European differences. So I would choose the Stanley Cup just because that's what I grew up knowing and loving.
Fair enough. I thought you might say that, but Evan, your thoughts?
The cup.
The cup.
And I don't mean to poo-poo gold medal or anything, but like if you're from the US or Canada, you are your favored or you're second to win the gold medal. And that's great. And like you had to beat Canada or the US to win it. But the cup that's I think a way harder road. And obviously gold medal historically means more, but you get your name on the cup. And that's what, and by the way, when we talk about players and their legacy, at least with the NHL, you're not saying, did they win a gold medal? No, it's, did you win a Stanley Cup? So like, to me, the cup is the gold standard.
Yep. Ironically, the cup is the gold standard, but
silver standard.
I think it's made out of platinum or something, or aluminum. But and not all, we know this, not all gold medals are treated equal. I mean, like you say, if the U.S. manages to win this year, or even let's say if Canada manages to win, how much are those players really going to treasure that? I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll love it, but probably not to the same degree as a Stanley Cup versus, the cross country skier from lower Bulgaria or something who, wins their first medal, that's a horse of a different color. All right. We move on to the final question, and we may have already touched upon this a little bit, but I'll ask it anyway. Evan, how big will a U.S.-Canada men's hockey final be in the grand scheme of things if the two teams meet, as I guess they are really expected to, right? I'm not wrong about that.
Yeah, they're expected to. You hope they do. Isn't the game scheduled for like 8 a.m. on Sunday?
Yep.
Like early ass game, which that's a shame in and of itself, but I don't know why you couldn't just have it like the night before or whatever, but they do it their way.
Like these 3 o'clock starts, which is, prime time in Italy, and, good afternoon weekend watching for us. That'd be a good one, but
that would be nice. I don't know why they would do that. How big will it be? It'll be huge. It'll be a big game. I mean, we still talk about that 2010 championship or the gold medal game that Canada won on Crosby's golden goal. I think it'll be huge. And Canada looks damn good. Like Canada with Celebrini up top now too. Like that's a really good team. So if the U.S. could beat them, that would be seismic. If Canada beats the U.S., it's obviously huge, but I think it's a way bigger deal if the U.S. beats Canada. Obviously, I'm biased, but I do think on paper, Canada's favored. So that would be a huge game. In the grand scheme of things, that'd be pretty big.
Have things like the Four Nations tournament, that's what that thing was called, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Does that dilute the importance of the Olympics at all? Evan, you answer that, and then we'll get the whole deal from Pat.
I don't think it dilutes it. I think Four Nations is more best on best because it's last year it was just Finland, Sweden, the U.S. and Canada, and you have everybody going at it, just beating the hell out of each other. Maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe it even makes it. It's set up. The Four Nations thing helps set up this rivalry.
It did. It was a great sort of pregame for this, no question. But yeah, no, and it doesn't. I don't think it dilutes it.
Pat, your thoughts on possible U.S. Canada final?
Yeah, I think where we just had it, it's like in my brain, it's like, oh, will it live up? Will it kind of be watered down? But the point Evan just made, or you guys just made about, kind of juicing up the rivalry. Like, I think it's just kind of maybe chum the waters a little more.
Yeah.
And, as far as, kind of how history remembers the game, you kind of just, you hope for a moment like 2010 or just an overtime game in general or a close game, kind of dramatic like we had last February with the Four Nations, or if you get a U.S. upset, like but if Canada wins walking away, it's like, history might only remember this Olympics as far as when NHL players came back, not what actually happened.
Yeah, if it's like a 4-1 Canada win, it's like, there's not much to that. But I agree with you, Pat. That would be how that Olympics would be remembered.
Yeah,
and you said chum the waters. I mean, rivalries, the teams need to play each other in order to have a rivalry, right? Like people, I always think it's kind of funny. People say Celtics Lakers is one of the best rivalries in the NBA. It is a great rivalry, but in most years they play each other like twice a year. Like that's it. And if the U.S., I know the U.S. plays Canada in international play at least once a year, right? In the what do they call it? The World Championships, the World Cup. But anyway, you would hope that this would be. I hope it lives up to the hype if it happens. I think we all do. But anyway,
I agree.
You guys did a fantastic job. In my book, you guys both get silver medals. Okay, gold medals. You can have gold. And back to you guys to wrap things up.
I finally didn't lose overtime. It's been a long time, but I finally didn't lose.
Yeah, just needed me to play hurt.
So that's right. I needed Pat to I planted that hill there on the ski lift. But anyways, yeah. That's that. We have a lot of stuff coming, obviously. MIAA tournament breakdowns, prep, other things. Lots of stuff coming. I am Evan Marinofsky. That is Patrick Donnelly. We will see you at the rinks.